culture influences team performance and individual performance, which affects the overall performance of a company. We're going to look at also how to identify where employees fall on the continuum or spectrum of compliant versus all the way to committed, and what can you do and what can the leaders in your organization do to support employees shifting from compliant to committed. And we're also going to talk about, is it okay if people are compliant, and what's that cost when you have more people who are compliant than committed. And we're going to talk about how psychological safety is the bridge to really support employees being fully engaged and helping and empowering leaders to do what it takes to support employees feeling safe in the workplace. This is a topic that's really important to me because even what I've just, like from my own experiences working as an employee in various organizations, I've realized it wasn't just me, but there were many other people that didn't necessarily feel safe to speak up. And even in some of the most engaging workplace cultures that I worked in, still not everyone felt safe to speak up, right? And share things that were going on with them, whether it was a mental health concern or whether it was to do something differently that they thought if they didn't change, it would pose lots of risk to the organization, right? It's not always easy to speak up. And there's a lot of cost to the organization and the people within when we don't really take the time to assess where's our culture at and how do we support people in feeling safer in the workplace. And what does that actually mean? So, all the people here in the room, how many of you would say the companies that you work for, or maybe even own, focus on psychological safety as much as you do physical safety, just with a show of hands? That psych safety is just as important as physical safety. Only one? No. Do you feel like physical safety, how many of you feel like physical safety is more important than psychological safety? Okay. How many of you have frameworks or policies, initiatives to implement a psychological health and safety program in your company? Okay, well, okay, kind of, okay. We've heard some companies say, yeah, we have the framework, we have the policies, we even have a committee, but then we fall short in actual full-wide implementation. Really integrate it into our culture in a way that influences how everybody shows up, speaks to each other, to their clients, to their employees, to their colleagues, and also influences how they make decisions. So the argument I'm going to make is psychological safety is just as important as physical, because if you don't take care of your employees in terms of their psychological health and safety, it will impact their physical safety. And have you seen that? Right, yeah. And so it has the burning platform for many organizations has been physical safety because of the costs associated with workplace injuries. But now we're seeing psychological injuries as well, right? And the costs associated to that. So the tide is shifting a little bit more and more over the last few years. And so this is something that we've really, in my company, focused on over the last several years and started to develop a more robust framework around psychological health and safety that just doesn't focus on what it is. And we still have to spend a little time around what, because we do a lot of leadership training and a lot of leaders have really never heard of the concept, shockingly, right? So we still have to spend time on what this is, but the how do we actually create psychological safety? So that's what we're gonna focus on. All right, so the best place to start first is culture. I think when we're talking about psychological safety, we're really talking about our organizational culture. You can't implement, this is the argument I'm gonna make, you can't implement a psychological health and safety program if you have no idea where your culture's at, whether it's empowering or disempowering or somewhere in the middle. How do people feel in the workplace? Do they feel supported? Do they feel like they are included and belong, right? You have to assess that first. Part of that, the first step is, well, what is culture? How do you define it? How do you explain it? And how do you measure it?